for all types of new and aspiring entrepreneurs throughout the United States. And we do this in a caffeinated state. Here is the list of our wonderful organizers. Erica, who leads us, Britt, Powell, and Tyler Powell, who do all of our marketing and advertising. They do the newspaper and our social media. I'm Bill McKinnon, and Pramila, who is Thiagason, right? Pramila, did I say that correctly? Oh, good enough. Thiagason. All right, and Stephanie Tomatis, Siobhan Robinson, Sean Como, who puts together our calendars and generally manages things. Brian Hickey, who is the genius behind our technology, and Ray Gaines and Paula Murray, who is our cutest couple and who usually are the greeters. Here they are. Thank you, guys. Here's the format, the ground rules. There'll be a presentation, and then there'll be a question and answer period after that. And when you do ask a question, all you have to do is raise your hand. We'll bring you a microphone. Please stand, give us your first name, ask your question, and please keep them to one each so more people can participate. As you can see, wait for the microphone, state your name, speak clearly into the microphone, like I occasionally don't do. Keep one question per person. If we have time or follow-up, we'll give you a chance to do that. Parking. Free parking is behind us in the newly paved parking place. Please don't park in the front because Poland that's where their customers park. So we don't want to take business away from them. Now, I had the pleasure of sitting down with Nikki last week to go over her presentation, and I discovered something right away, that she is a force of nature. And I'm pleased. I was blown away by her. She's terrific. So let me bring her to the front. Nicole Cush.
You're welcome. Thank you so much, everyone. Oh my, I'm so overwhelmed by your love and support, so thank you for being here. I use Nikki and Nicole interchangeably, just to answer that question, so you can call me either one. So I'd just like to welcome you, and I am the founder of the Glitter Sisters and the executive director, and we have launched into something we call Courage Collective Circles, which I'm excited to tell you about today. But before we get started, I want to take a moment that I've never forgotten. And I want to share with you not a piece of data, not a theory, but a moment. When I first became the principal of SILSA, I had a student in my first discipline meeting say this quote to me. And what stuck in my head when he said it was not the fact that he said it, because I've heard scholars say it before, but it was with the certainty that he said it. And that changed everything for me as a principal in Asheville. So, to tell you a little bit about who I am, I'm a lifelong educator. I've been in education for 30 years. This is the only time I'll ask you to do math, because I'm a former English teacher. Because I try to stay away from math. I have anxiety around math. 17 years I served in the classroom as an English teacher and a broadcasting teacher. So I'm struggling, y'all, because I taught kids how to read off of a teleprompter, and now I don't have one, so thank you for your patience. So 17 years as a teacher, 6 years as an assistant principal in the Raleigh area. I was in Southeast Raleigh Magnet High School, which is a very inner city high-tech school. And then I spent 4 years at Green Hope High School, which was the antithesis, a very wealthy school in Cary, North Carolina. It was the public school for the Cary kids who all got kicked out of Cary Academy. So just to give you an idea. So I've been in a lot of different spaces as an administrator. I moved to Asheville to be the principal of SILSA 8 years ago, and I was there for 7 years for my dream job. And I will use quotes for that. Thank you. I am a systems thinker and a builder. So I'm one of those people that actually gets excited when the bell rings and everybody goes into the classroom and the doors close and it's quiet. I enjoy that very much, okay? But across every role and every pattern, there was the same issue. Brilliance was everywhere. Belonging was not. The Glitter Sisters was born when I realized something very painful. Not only was it happening to the students, but it was also happening to the staff. Young people were being disciplined instead of developed. And I realized that this was basically Black genius under oppression. I wanted to create a space, particularly where young girls, Black girls, could be seen for their potential and not for their struggle. Not sure if you know about the struggle of Asheville, but the city of Asheville has the #1 achievement gap between Black and white students and #5 in the country. And it's still a persistent problem. We know it's a problem. It took me 6 months to figure out what the problem was. And let me tell you, they don't want to figure out the problem. Because there's a lot of people who make money because of that gap. But I knew because of that gap, that's where my life work began. Oops, okay. Oops, okay. So originally, when I started Glitter Sisters, I pulled out the idea in my interview with my then superintendent. Mind you, I had 6 superintendents while I was principal, just to give you an idea of the leadership chaos. But the superintendent who hired me asked me what was I going to do to address the gang girl style fights. And I'm just gonna be very honest with you. When I inherited SILSA, it had a 92% graduation rate. My white boys were trying to kill themselves, and my Black girls were trying to kill each other. Bottom line, that's what I inherited. So I knew that I had a lot of work to do. In the time that I was there, I raised the graduation rate to 99% in 7 years. Thank you. And I honestly admit I would have probably gotten 100, but I didn't control the kids that were accepted. But that's okay, I'll take that sweet 99 any day. So anyway, when I started Glitter Sisters, it was really as an alternative to suspension, because as the principal, I have the option to keep students in the building. And when I say alternative to suspension, as long as they're not in incredible danger to themselves or others, I can create ways to keep them in the building. Because guess what? It's not rocket science, y'all. If kids are not successful with that gap, guess what one of the biggest problems is? Attendance. And discipline affects the attendance. See the vicious cycle that's happening here? So anyway, we started with absolutely 0 funding. It was just after the 3rd big fight, Dr. Patterson said to me, "Where's my group?" I assembled the girls, and in my 3rd month, October of 2018, we had our first meeting, and we never stopped. No funding, no blueprint. I had to figure it out on my own, but I had incredible intention and a lot of structure. But the big thing was, they just needed to belong, and they kept coming back, and I just kept trying to figure it out. But then one day, on a crazy fluke accident, I call it a crazy fluke accident, a beautiful experiment happened. Asheville City Schools Foundation Director, Copeland Rudolph, called me and said, "Hey, I need you to pull some kids together and create space for North Carolina Poet Laureate Jackie Shelton Green." That's that beautiful lady there in that picture. So I exercised my right as a principal, called the parents, pulled my girls out of class, and for 3 hours, we had the most life-changing experience where she just took them on journeys of writing together and sharing together. And we cried and we supported. I mean, I was right there crying with them, y'all. It was awesome. But what I learned, because when I originally wanted a mentoring group, that's all they needed. They didn't necessarily need the mentors at that moment. They needed to just build their capacity to be the better leaders that they already were. And I needed to create space where they respected each other, themselves, and loved each other. And that's what my first circle of Glitter Sisters turned out to be. I wanted them to experience something radical, to be seen, to be loved, and to be loving. Something unexpected happened once we started following that path. I'm walking through the hallway and teachers are like, and mind you, this is for Asheville High and Silsa girls. Teachers are saying to me, oh my gosh, they have so much more confidence. Oh my gosh, what are you doing with them? Oh my gosh, they're showing up to class and asking questions. Oh my, they're rising to the occasion on the team. Because many of them were on the basketball team, cheerleaders, student government. They were already involved, but they didn't really feel like they belonged. So that's when I realized the kids didn't change, their environment did. When I watched them work with Jackie Shelton Green, I realized that courage was a collective act and not an individual pursuit. And that too changed everything. So, what worked? Some of our best decisions were very simple. We partnered with organizations. My sister taught me that. That's actually a field trip that we took with them back during COVID. I want to say it was May of 2020. But we took a wonderful field trip where we took a group of our girls from My Sister Taught Me That and Glitter Sisters. We went down to South Carolina. I have a big thing about making sure scholars have experiences. And we took them to Topgolf because many of my girls wanted to go into the medical field. And we all know, if we want to work in medicine, you might need to know how to play golf because that's where a lot of big decisions are made. It's true. So I wanted them just to be comfortable, so I got them a coach at Topgolf, and they got to swing balls and learn how to look like they knew what they were doing. That's what I really wanted. Just look like you know what you're doing. But I also partnered with Peak Academy, LEAF, the YWCA, and did a lot of work on their boards and volunteering for these different organizations. What also happened was Copeland Rudolph got tired of me begging her for money, and she said, hey, if you really think this is viable and I love what you're doing and you want money, let's get on a grant cycle. Let me teach you about writing grants and let's get you some real funding because you keep coming to me when I don't have any money. And I said, great, and I did. And that's where the magic happened. But we listened before scaling. We built sustainability before expansion. We knew that depth over speed was the most important thing. And the important thing for me was to just keep bringing folks in, but now I had the funding to do so, because let's be real, everyone's time is valuable. And as a principal in North Carolina, I know what it's like to have to give and not receive what you're worth. So our first circle was small, but it worked. We didn't scale really fast, we did it thoughtfully. And because I'm also working on my dissertation now, but I was working on my doctorate at Western, I learned the importance of collecting data. And most teachers, the good teachers, collect data from their students and build upon that data. And I was a darn good teacher. So we didn't scale fast, we did it thoughtfully. We tested, we tried different things. And when the girls were like, no, that instructor makes us sleepy, or, oh, that instructor is amazing, or, oh, literally I had a yoga instructor come in and some of them fell asleep, especially on the breath work. But that's good, at least they relaxed, and that was cool. So, but we listened to them. And so our programming was driven by what they wanted. And then we refined. And slowly, that one flower coming through the concrete became many. And I just need to brag, because from that first cohort, By May, I will have 8 bachelor's degrees from that first group of girls and 1 master's degree. I don't think many other nonprofits in the area can boast those kind of numbers. I'm slightly obsessed with graduation rates. I just am. And also, to be honest, I love school. I'm big on school. But the scholars know that there are 3 different choices: 4-year college, certificate program, start your own business. That's kind of where we start. And if your goal is not one of those 3 things, we're gonna make it till it is, and then you'll be fine. Because that's the goal, is post-graduation success. So that realization became the foundation of what we now call Courage Collective Circles. Spaces that are intentionally designed for belonging, leadership, and shared accountability. I don't know if any of you worked with high school students before, but many high school students are all about that run to get that title on their resume or in their college application and say they were president of this, president of that, but they don't want to do the work. They just want the title. So I took it away. I've only had 1 president in the 6 years that we established, and she worked so hard I appointed her because I saw how the other kiddos were vying for that attention. Thank you. So birthed from a high school club, now we're serving as an alternative to suspension, rooted in uplifting scholars that were never meant to succeed. So the influence, this amazing lady, Dr. Jessica Gordon-Nembard, who is the writer of the book Collective Courage, and this book undergirds all of our curriculum. She is an economist from John Jay University, and so she writes and focuses on leadership movements that worked and why, and applying cooperative economic principles to everything for the collective movement. And what she taught me in all of that was the power, and any successful movement happens when people are doing it together. So 3 principles shaped everything that we did. Belonging before performance. That's huge. Because when you talk to your scholars, and especially if you know any scholars of color, belonging should be one of the main things you ask. Do you feel like you belong there? Do you feel accepted? Do you feel like your word is taken? These are questions that we need to be asking our scholars. So belonging before performance, the shared leadership piece that I talked to you about before, reflection paired with action, and the Vegas rule. Las Vegas is one of my favorite cities, and the kids knew this. So when I would say the Vegas rule, they knew exactly what I was talking about. But you can't have a safe container and be a loving human without protecting the secrets of those in your space. And that's one of the things they had to learn. I think that's a key element to sisterhood, or just being a good human, but in our case, for sisterhood purposes. But these aren't slogans, y'all. These are design principles. So here's the big difference. Aside from the fact that I believe I am the only administrator with almost 20 years of teaching experience, leading a nonprofit that's leading children. It's very important to have someone who understands education when you're working with children. And you'd be surprised how a lot of people have a disconnect. And that's why many of their programs are built to fix people. Our program, what sets us apart, is that we don't fix people, we cultivate them. We meet the scholars where they are and go from there and build their leadership capacity. So we always ask ourselves, what conditions help them thrive? That's what we want. Never ask what's wrong with them. We usually know what's wrong with them. And yes, y'all, we blame the parents sometimes. I take responsibility for my daughter's poor behaviors too, I will. But my daughter's 29 now, she's on her own. However, that question, what do they need to thrive? That's what changes outcomes. When we ask what's wrong with them, we just play the blame game. That doesn't matter. So what did I learn in this leadership journey? I cannot do it alone. It was so important for me to ask for help. The moment I said to Copeland, yes, I need your help, I need money, please help me, that was when everything changed. Because I was struggling, trying to do it all myself. Real leadership is interdependence. So it was important for me to model that for the girls as well. And that lesson changed everything, how I lead and how I live. I would not be where we are without the amazing folks in this banner. These are my coaches. Some of them are family, some of them are like family, but they are amazing people that helped me get this off the ground. One person I want to point out in particular is that young lady in the upper right corner. Her name is Portia Carter. She was one of the first cohort of Glitter Sisters. I had her when she came to 9th grade at Silsa. She graduated top of her class, received a scholarship to Chapel Hill. She's graduating in May. She also serves as one of our coaches because we provide culturally affirming life coaching for the community of biracial students that struggle with a connection to the Black community. If you're not aware that this is a problem here in Western North Carolina, let me tell you, it's almost as bad as the achievement gap. We have many biracial students whose parents don't know, don't care, or don't understand how to get their scholars into the culture, because the reality is they may appear racially ambiguous, but at the end of a police's gun, they look like they're Black. Bottom line. So anyway, these amazing educators, families, partners, community members, coaches, help me build this amazing organization that we have. Every circle we create is proof that transformation accelerates when people build together. And down at the bottom, I just want to point out that we went from Glitter Sisters 8 years ago to now our Courage Collective circles, which we'd like to bring into other communities, preferably other high schools. We also have Gen V, Voices That Vote, which is an amazing program that we have created to align with the midterm elections. I don't know about y'all, but do you remember when you first had to vote? I was super excited. I came home from college to vote, but I only went to college like 4 hours away. Now when you speak with young people, I don't think the same excitement exists. And the conversations are tougher for teachers in the classroom, and it's not their job to be the battleground and the coaches when the kids bring the ugly stuff from home. So they need a safe, bipartisan place where they can ask questions, get information, and learn how to be involved. So that's the focus of Gen V, is political activism for all scholars. And we're particularly aiming for the juniors and seniors in high school and the civics teachers. Amplify Soundbox is our audio, started out as our audio production retreat, where we brought 3 students from very different backgrounds together. They came together and in one day in a recording studio, made a song, and now they have an MP4 that they can use as they're applying to colleges or auditions to say, hey, I wrote this, I played on this, I created this piece of art. And we're also going to expand into filmmaking, because I am too a filmmaker. And then Finesse Camp, which we actively are running right now. It's our first cohorted program. And the Finesse Camp is really to introduce our young scholars to thrifting. Thrifting is something that many of our young BIPOC scholars are not into, because they still are attached to that, I spent this much money, and I want to show off that I have these new Jordans. And in this economy, nobody has time for that. So we partnered with the amazing Closetorium. Just want to give the Closetorium. Thank you, Morgan. And I went to Morgan and I was like, hey, look, I got this program I'm building. I need a safe space for my scholars to thrift. I will pay for their memberships, and then we're going to do some sort of showcase. But her environment was perfect. I feel very comfortable paying for the memberships for my scholars to go there versus just sending them to Goodwill. Not that there's anything wrong with Goodwill, but Morgan's space is intentional. It's welcoming, just like Glitter Sister Circles. And that's why we invited her to be part of our amazing crew. Also, big shout out to Morgan, because I got this dress from the Closetorium. So, and if you didn't see her presentation last week, please go check out her presentation from last week. And if you haven't visited her yet, go check her out on Sweeten Creek Road. She's amazing. So yes, our ecosystem now includes leadership development, creative programs, retreats, and community partnerships. On the surface, they all look different, but at the core, the collective courage is what ties them together. What also is at the core is the fact that we push them discovering their own capacity. So just like with the Closetorium, I've asked Morgan to introduce the scholars to her amazing business model. Who knows? I'm hoping that a few of my scholars will at least want to go open one of the stores that she wants to open in different cities. That would thrill me to no end. We are also working with Healing Roots, which is a buddy of mine owns a permaculture farm. So when we take students out to our survival retreat camps, we try to keep an eye on the scholars that have an interest in getting their hands dirty and playing in the dirt. So then we can introduce them to permaculture because that might be a viable pathway for them. Right now, we're growing. And it feels as Herculean as this bridge because it's just so much is happening, but it's very exciting. We're strengthening infrastructure. We're deepening partnerships. We're refining our curriculum because this work was never meant to stay small. And let's be real, if the schools were doing what they were supposed to do, there would be no room for us. And let me tell you, there's a lot of room for us right now. We're building toward a future where belonging is the standard, leadership is shared, and young people know that they matter before they even have to prove it. Not just in one school, not just in one city, but anywhere the community is willing to practice it. So why does this matter? When people feel unseen, and let me tell you, I can write a book on what it's like to feel unseen as a Black administrator in Asheville City. I felt unseen, and the system definitely felt that impact when I felt unseen, because I learned about quiet quitting. And you hear those stories, quiet firing, quiet quitting. Why would you do that to people? I just don't understand. But I'm glad they did, because it led me to a different pathway. So I say to anyone who's struggling within the system, learn it, and then build your own, to work with the folks, to support the folks who are stuck in the system. When people feel supported, communities thrive faster. We know that. So this work isn't charity. It is definitely infrastructure. So how can you help? Of course, in doing something like this, I can ask you to whip out a check, and we would always love that. But it isn't just funding, it's also connection. Introduce us to people that you may know who could be partners. Invite us to conversations. Introduce us to folks. We have a lot of people who have land, they're not even there. And I am bringing Black scholars out into the community to learn how to camp and pitch tents and do all these really cool things. So maybe you know someone who's got property that's just sitting and maybe they only use it for vacation. Hook us up, because we would love to help with that land. Because the bottom line is movements thrive when relationships are formed. So I'm really here asking for support and any other advice. I want to return back to this young man, because he literally changed everything for me when I got here to Asheville. He believed that everybody gave up on him. And I worked very hard to try to get him to understand that he was going to be just fine. And he is. I still keep in touch with him. He actually volunteers at a local nonprofit, and he does a lot of mentoring, which just warms my heart. Now, he didn't make it to college, unfortunately, because he was an athlete that they just kept squeezing the W's from. So when it was time to graduate, he didn't have a GPA that got him into college. And he would have been quite promising. I've taught a lot of students who've gone on to be professional athletes, and he had that flair, but he didn't have the environment that he needed to make sure that he was going to get over that hump. But when I was able to inherit him his junior year, I was able to create a container that he felt safe in. And I'm just so honored that he does mentor, because he didn't change, his environment changed. That's why this work matters, y'all. It really does. Because when belonging becomes real, possibility becomes real and then becomes endless. Practice occurs when that possibility becomes real and then people change their lives together. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. So before we go to the question and answers, we'd love for you to stay connected. So for anyone who would love to contribute, we have a wonderful campaign that's going on right now. That's what that QR code is for. But maybe you just want to know more about us and learn more about us, please sign up to be on our mailing list. And that's what this QR code is for. So we do actively send newsletters and try to keep folks in the loop. So we would love for that. And then this QR code is it'll take you directly to the website if you want to learn a little bit more about us. Brian or Bill, is it true when we get to the question and answer period, you want folks to stand, right? Okay. Please remember when you ask your question to stand up. Okay?
All right. Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you so much, y'all.
Got a big hug from everybody.
Oh, big hugs back. Thank you.
All right. For those of you, we've got a question over here. Okay. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ed.
Hi, Ed.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Where do you want this 3 years? What does this look like? What is it doing?
National, 3 years. I'd like to, I believe in the power of after-school programs. I am originally from New Jersey and looking into maybe expanding there. I have some friends who want to continue working who are educators. And I think ultimately the goal, when I became a principal, I thought it was going to be my way to employ people, right? Well, I became principal of SILSA, which only has 14 teachers. And once I whittled away the folks that, you know, when you first get to a place, there may be personality clashes, they don't fit. Once I whittled away the unfits, no one would leave. So I couldn't keep hiring teachers. And you don't really have much power when you're a principal. You know, the superintendent controls everything. So don't believe the hype. You have a little bit, but not much. So I couldn't employ amazing people that I was meeting. So the goal really is to create spaces where I can also employ these amazing people. Absolutely. This is really not about me because I am building this with succession in mind. I am 2 years away from the early retirement possibility, and I really would like to stick to about 2 to 3 to 5 years, but I want to have this continue way beyond me. Every good leader knows that you plant a tree not expecting to feel the shade. So the goal is, and honestly, I really want Portia to take it over in a couple of years. So that's kind of what we're planning right now. But I'm getting her set up in a few certificate programs. But yeah, that's the goal, is just to create opportunities because there's so much. So I also have some ideas of bringing some things down to South Carolina. So I see us going national. Thank you. Thank you.
I think I'm next for a question.
Hi.
So I'm curious, I help to direct a nonprofit here in Asheville. It's Bountiful Cities, and we have the Feast program. And we're expanding to the high school after many, many years. And so starting to work in a mentorship program with high school students coming back to their home elementary schools where they learned cooking and gardening with our Feast program. And I am curious about collaboration.
I am all about collaborating. And in fact, Bountiful Cities, when we were still a club at the high school, sponsored us for a co-think grant. So thank you, Bountiful Cities. Way before we became a nonprofit, you all were one of the organizations that helped us. I would love that because of my desire to get scholars more into growing food and understanding the importance of that. And also seeing what I hired the ag teacher that's at Asheville High, so I know what her classes look like, and they need to change. So yeah, I think that's let's talk.
Let's talk.
Let's talk.
I'll be in touch.
For sure. Thank you so much.
So I'll be with you in just a second. I'm going to ask you a question. Real
Yes,
quick.
ma'am.
Awesome. So my name is Pramila.
Hello,
And I am very grateful to be a part of Glitter Sisters and working with you.
I'm grateful that you
I'm
are.
so proud of the presentation that you just put out.
Thank you.
And I wanted to talk a little bit about the Courage Collective book that your work has been inspired and this organization kind of holds as a pillar.
Yes.
And I think that when you introduced me to that and I started reading it, it really shifted my paradigm. And I'm very old and I don't change.
You're not very old. You are stubborn.
I
but You're not very old.
I am very old. Ask my children.
Yeah, they'll think you're old. Okay.
Yeah, you know. But the book was it shifted my paradigm.
Mm-hmm.
And I consider myself somebody who is open and progressive and community oriented. But I realized that I was not doing as much as I could, and that what I could do wasn't going to take as much effort as I thought it was going to take. Mm-hmm. And that was one of the things that I kind of sat in my complicity as, like, oh, I'm doing whatever I can, but it's easier when we do it collectively. And so her book was very, very powerful for me. And I noticed that when you mentioned her, there were quite a few people who whipped up their phone, you did, and wrote down the name of the book.
Wonderful.
Can you tell us if Glitter Sisters is going to give this community an opportunity to meet Dr. Jessica?
Yes. Thank you very much, Pramila. First of all, I have to tell you, Dr. Jessica's brother was one of my teachers at SILSA. And I've been in this game for 30 years in multiple states and different cities here in North Carolina. And I invited to come to Glitter Sisters to teach. This is how I was introduced to Dr. Jessica's work. And he did his workshop, and I was like as he was, like, my mouth just hit the floor. And I was like, she's got everything in one package that I've been trying to teach everybody. And basically what Dr. Jessica does is chronicle leadership movements that worked, and which are intentionally not taught to the scholars in school. See the connection? So, yes, was it powerful, just like your reaction? Yes, to whether or not we'll be bringing Dr. Jessica here. On April 18th, we will be having something right here at Hatch called the Wisdom Fest. And it will be a very similar format like this, where Dr. Jessica, the author, will be up here being interviewed, though she doesn't like to do lectures because that's what she does for a living. And, when you talk to many college professors, they want to be interviewed and engaged. They don't want to just talk because that's what they do all the time. So we have her scheduled to be interviewed, and then folks will be able to purchase her book. But if you don't want to wait till then and you want to get your book ahead of time, you can order it off of the Glitter Sisters website. I ask that you do it there. We get nothing for it, but she gets everything from it. Because if you go to Amazon, she gets like pennies to the dollar. So please, if you have an interest in purchasing the book before, and we will be selling some here, but I advise you probably to buy it ahead of time, and then you can get it signed when you come to see her. But on April 18th, and we will be pushing out all the information on our socials of how you can come and be a part of that conversation. Right now, we are planning for that to be a free event, but we would welcome a donation if you come. And then we will be hosting the fashion show after that, showing the wares from Morgan's Closetorium and our scholars presenting to their families. And it'll all be happening right here at Hatch on April 18th. So look forward to that. So thank you, Pram. Hi, Deb.
Hello, I'm Deb. I wonder if you could explain a little bit about the Glitter Sister. Is it like curriculum where the participants go through a variety of activities, or do they pick and choose? Like, how is it structured?
It's structured by me selecting what usually starts from their data. One of the first questions that I ask from them, do you know who the Black Panthers are? And they don't. They know about the movie. When I talk to them about Fred Hampton, I know it's kind of sad though, it doesn't make me laugh. It makes me really sad that Black kids don't know about the Black Panthers, because it was one of the most successful movements that scared this government so much, they killed Fred Hampton when he was 21. Imagine what he could have done if he was able to live. He was 21, they shot him as he laid beside his pregnant girlfriend. And I want to make sure my scholars know that this is not faint of heart work, that you could die for fighting what you believe in. But that's my base data point, is to find out what they know. And then we also talk about the civil rights movement. Do you all know who Dorothy I. Height is? Do you know who Ella Baker is? Okay, I see a couple of nods. Ella Baker and Dorothy I. Height planned the entire March on Washington, where Martin Luther King did his I Have a Dream speech. But guess what? Martin succumbed, and I love Martin Luther King, love me some him. He's the reason why I went to Boston University undergrad. But he succumbed to the misogynoir and would not let those women step to the mic to even say hello. And they planned the entire thing. So that's how misogyny and the patriarchy creeps in to hurting a movement. And I think it's important for our scholars to understand that. You all should be knowing who Ella Baker is and who Dorothy I. Height is equally as well as you know Martin Luther King, in my mind. And when our kids come through our program, they know. They also learn about Angela Davis and other successful females that were granted the opportunity to lead. And then they're also learning how to take their opportunity to lead. So yes, I pretty much plan the curriculum. And what I've learned is, instead of making it super academic like a PowerPoint, because I've been in school long enough to know that kids are like, during a PowerPoint, right? I can't tell you how many times I've awakened a kid during a PowerPoint. But when I just have conversation with them, when we're eating, usually it's on the meals. And if Chris is not there to formally teach it, I teach it. And it's just conversation. And guess what? Kids remember everything when it's a conversation. They don't remember anything when it's regurgitation. They can learn what they learn in school, the fake American history, they can learn that for regurgitation. But what they learn with Glitter Sisters stays with them for life.
Hi, Nikki.
Oh, hi.
I'm Barry. So I have a shout out to Copeland. She is the executive director of Asheville City School Foundation, and they are sponsoring this Thursday an event called Ed Talks. And this is, I had the joy and the honor of being able to work with 6 teachers and the superintendent on preparing 8-minute speeches to give the teachers a voice. And the theme is freedom. So I have had, as you know, when I'm working with people on their speeches, they invite me into their world. And these teachers are awesome human beings doing incredible work. And I was a high school dance educator for 23 years. My question to you, so just check out Ed Talks on Thursday. It is a fundraiser, and they would love for folks to show up and support it. My question is, I love that you are working with the children, and I wouldn't want your attention to be split. But I think teachers are hungry for this too. They're hungry, many, not all of them, but many of them are hungry for the depth of the connection that you're building with these students. I've seen it in these in these teachers. They're overworked, they don't have time, they have so many responsibilities. I'm not saying, how are you going to do that? But what is there a solution to support educators, to uplift them, to seed even a little bit of heart and that sense of belonging into them?
Yes. I'm thrilled to see that Copeland was able to pull that off. I come from the Asheville city where we were heavily silenced and muzzled. They did not want to hear the truth from some of us. So I'll be intrigued to see what actually makes it to the stage. I have presented on behalf of Asheville City Schools, but was very carefully watched in what I said, and often disciplined for even what I put on my Facebook page. So I don't know. I hope there can be some authenticity there. Now, to say all of this, if you look at my teacher working condition survey scores, I have some of the highest in the state, and I have the highest teacher retention rate out of, I think, any principal in Asheville City during my tenure. I will say that the teachers are some of the teachers are so amazing. But I don't like to use the term white supremacy anymore. I like to use the term white narcissism. The white narcissism that leads Asheville City scares me that it's going to make Copeland's road a little bit harder. But Copeland is a fighter. She is amazing because she uplifts voices in the spaces that she knows how. She's very good at creating those spaces for folks. And I honor her for that. So I look forward to seeing how it comes about, because the teachers do have a very interesting story to tell because they see a lot. I hope there's at least one SILSA teacher on that list, but because that means I probably hired them. But I will say it's time. But let me also say this. Copeland led the initiative of the speaking project, and the students spoke years ago when Hannah Nicole Jones was here. And they did not make decisions that acted like they listened. So are we just checking a box, which I know that systems are very good at doing? Or are we really caring? Because if we were, it would be reflected in the hiring practices. And let's be clear, our scholars, my BIPOC scholars, are being asked to rise to the occasion with no role models. There are fewer Black teachers and administrators in Asheville City now than there was in 1984 when Copeland was a student. So let's be clear. Let's not act like it's pie in the sky. This is very intentional. And when we look at the hiring practices and who's allowed to keep their jobs and who isn't, we have to begin to ask questions. So I just ask for critical perspective. And yes, support for Copeland, because this is very brave, what she's doing.
All right, let's put our hands together for Nicole. Let's give her another standing O. Like, that was a big deal. Okay, I got to tell you, we haven't had a standing ovation in, I want to say, about a year. The last one, I was thinking.
Really?
Yeah, and the last one was when Earl B. Hunter presented, and he has Black Folks Camp too, and I owe you that introduction. Yeah. Yeah, he's super inspiring as well. Am I not pushing the buttons? Oh, no, it's just, there we go. And here we are. I want to give a huge shout out to our event sponsors, Charlie and Troy Ball, who generously donate the space each and every week. Hatch Co-working, Mountain BizWorks, the Pisca Fund, NC Idea, Patrick O'Kane with EOS Entrepreneurial Systems, Baird, the Brookshire Garside Group, ERC Broadband, Brick Creative, Dynamite Coffee Roasting Company, and Brian back there with Broadbeam Live Media. He's going to be presenting on this new business of his that he's doing right here, right now, every week. And I think that's in like 2 weeks. Yeah, not long away. Western Carolina University and SCORE. These are community events that we have going on this week. Let's go. Steph has been hard at work. I love this. So cool. So we have the Digital Nomads. They're doing Manifesting Your Best Self. That is on the 25th. On the 26th, there's Toastmasters. And on the 27th, TEDx, Pass the Mic, Celebration and Ceremony. And Barry's right back there. And then Mountain BizWorks, Craft Your Commerce is coming up. And the second super duper benefit at the Mule. That sounds like fun. I love soup. And, and then the Asheville area business Abbott nightclub is happening at Highwire Brewing. And yes. Oh, bummer. So you just are going to have to manifest your best self at home. So, but thank you. Thanks, Mike. I just want to, there were a few people that were here for the first time. What I was trying to get back to was not apply to present, but I'm going to do the check-in code. So next week, things have changed a little bit. New Reality Fund, she's going to, and so we're working on next week's presenter. So we've got some kind of things shifting and shaping, and we will be having a panel discussion coming up, I believe, on the 18th. These dates have all kind of shifted a little bit. And the panel discussion is going to be on surfing the silver tsunami. So people are talking about how people are retiring and all of these businesses are becoming available to be bought, sold. All of this is happening. And that's going to be our panel. That will be on the 18th of March. So mark your calendar that the 18th will be panel discussion, surfing the silver tsunami and buying businesses in 2026. Okay, last but not least, if you didn't check in before, please check in now. And this goes for Hey Joe Peck. So he's like, I got an email. So if you come a few times, you get an email and it says, come pick up your free swag. So ta-da! We have the free swag right there. So if you've gotten this email, show it to yourself. We'll just trust you and and get a journal, get a mug, and go and share joy with the world. Hopefully everybody is going to leave here as inspired as I am this morning. Nicole, thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right, go forth. Let's change the world.